Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast. An exciting week and then some boring games. Mitchell, what you got?
Richard, I'm kind of glad this weekend was over. You hit on it. The games on Sunday were less than thrilling until we got to the Eagles game. And Richard, I'm pretty sure I gained 10 pounds this weekend. So I'm ready to get back to normal life. But before we get into this weekend's game, let's go to Thanksgiving Day itself, because there was a game up in Seattle with a lot of implications divisionally and in the conference. Seattle against the San Francisco 49ers. It did not go the way the 12s thought it would, Richard. San Francisco blows out the Seahawks.
Yeah. They just were too beat up going in. I don't think Geno's elbow is healthy. They didn't have your boy K9, so the running game wasn't where it should be. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, and that's a cause for concern right now. You know, there are people calling for Shane Waldron's job. The 49ers, that's their fourth straight win over the Seahawks. That hasn't happened in a really long time. Nick Bosa, 5 sacks over the last 3 games since Chase Young has come. He's heated up, and that's been incredible. Seahawks were on a roll, but they got a tough next stretch of games that they're going to have to figure some things out, starting with Dallas on Thursday Night Football on Prime. DK Metcalf didn't have the kind of game that he needed against Charvarius Ward. Kyle Shanahan decided to put Charvarius Ward on DK Metcalf for the majority of the game, and he found some success there. Yeah, I mean, Ambry Thomas has been a revelation for the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy played a really solid game. He did have the interception that was tipped up in the air for a touchdown. That was Seattle's only touchdown. But man, I don't know where to start, because Seattle's offensive line needs some fix. There's so many questions to be answered. Defensively, there are holes. They dropped people into coverage right there on the touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. There were 4 guys in coverage right there, and it still was a touchdown. You know, whenever you see that on a screen in film, I don't know what answers you have, because they called the right call. Even Kyle didn't think he would throw it, and it was just a dime of a throw. Geno made some good passes, had some good moments when he had time to throw, but he doesn't have a lot of time to throw. He's beat up. The offensive line is beat up. Defensively, they're kind of getting beat up. It's a bad time in the season. It's a bad time to be hurt. So hopefully a little bit more rest. You know, they at least got a week. Usually on Thursdays, you only get 4 days, 3-4 days. So at least you got a full week to recover and try to be prepared for this Dallas game. It should be a good game. I still think Seattle has a chance in it, and I still think they can play well, but they're going to need K9 back, and they're going to need all their receivers at full strength and playing their best, because if they don't play their best, it's going to be another tough week.
No doubt about that, Rich. And to make matters worse for the Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers pulled off a major upset, and now they're nipping at their heels originally it looked like it was a runaway for the Seahawks to make the postseason, but now they got something to worry about. This game on Thursday becomes even more important. I know you're going to be down in Dallas for it. Let's hope they can get healthy. But on the other side of the fence, when we look at a team that has lost their spark in the Seattle Seahawks, we look at a team in the San Francisco 49ers that is just a rocket ship, shooting to the moon right now, Rich. They are looking like the team that started this season that you were so high on. And Richard, they have a huge game, the NFC Championship revenge from last year with a healthy Brock Purdy this time. They're going into Philly, right, Rich? Philly just pulled off a big-time win, and they've been squeaking by this last month. But, Richard, who do you like in this game? Because this has got a lot of implications for the NFC between San Fran and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, this game has been circled on the schedule for the San Francisco 49ers since the offseason. I mean, since the game happened, it was right over. There were players chirping both ways. Obviously, Philly won. Brock Purdy got injured first drive of the game. So there's so many what-if questions for the San Francisco 49ers and their players. So they think they should have won that game last year. They think if they had Brock Purdy, they would have won that game. Well, here we are back in Philly in the same situation, different circumstances, because obviously this isn't the NFC Championship game. But I expect the San Francisco 49ers to win this game. Philadelphia has been battling and fighting, showing they can find different ways to win. But the way they have been struggling defensively and giving up points, I think there's a chance for the San Francisco 49ers to have a big game. That offensive line hasn't been as stout as it has in years past. And the 49ers over the past 3 weeks, since Chase Young has come on board, have been a lot more effective.
They sure have. And, you know, like you touched on earlier, Nick Bosa, 5 sacks in the last 3 weeks. Richard, he's this week's Making It Look Easy Player of the Week, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Again, Nicholas John Bosa made it look super easy against the Seahawks, and he's made it look super easy the last 3 weeks, ever since Chase Young joined the fold. 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 QB hits on Thanksgiving against Seattle. Let's see if he can make it happen again in Philly. They're going to need everything they can to be able to take down Jalen Hurts. I mean, Richard, this is not a guy that gets sacked often. So let's see if they can make it happen. Nicholas John Bosa, this week's Making It Look Easy Player of the Week, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. If you're ever injured, go to Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/Sherman or dial pound law. That's pound 529. Winning in this league is hard, but hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy.
Can you believe we're this deep into the NFL season? We got to make every second count. With DraftKings Sportsbook, you can make the most out of every game day. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting $5 on any matchup. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now and use code Richard. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on the NFL. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Richard. The crown is yours.
Richard, let's take it to Philly. We touched on it briefly. They pulled off an absolute doozy of a comeback against a very, very desperate Buffalo Bills team that is now 500. How does this happen? I mean, the Bills looked like the team we thought they were this whole year. Thought we were super competitive. Josh Allen playing his heart out, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that may be the case. They may just not have enough to be true contenders in this league this season. Josh Allen, even when he plays a solid, really, really good game, he threw for 339, 2 touchdowns, the 1 interception, ran it for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, it's still not enough. Even when Gabe Davis has a big game and answers the call, and Stephon Diggs is effective, and it's just not enough. And so I don't know. The Philadelphia Eagles are a complete team and one of the best teams in the National Football League. They had them against the ropes for the majority of the game. They were leading at the halftime. They looked like they were in total control of the game, especially a game in the elements. But at the end of the day, they didn't close it out. And that's a game they probably had to have. They got tough games down the stretch. They got to play Dallas. They got to play a lot of tough teams. They got to play Miami again. And this game may be the reason they missed the playoffs.
I think it's going to be. The AFC playoff race is a severe tight one. For Philly, this was a huge win. It separates them from the Lions. It separates them from 49ers. They have a stranglehold on this number 1 seed. But, Richard, they've got to get it done. The thing with Philly is they can beat you in a number of ways. You know, they can pound the rock with DeAndre Swift. They can hit you in a deep ball with A.J. Brown. They can turn you over. You know, James Bradbury, huge interception in that game to get him back in it. And then we see Zacchaeus in the end zone with just a beautiful pass from Hurts. Richard, this is the first time, I think, in NFL history, I believe, that 2 quarterbacks have had multiple rushing touchdowns in the same game. Wild finish. Jake Elliott with an absolute bomb of a kick to force overtime. This, when you can win ugly like this, we talked about it last week with the Lions beating the Bears. If you can win ugly like this, when the Eagles in that first half were not playing their best football, they got a championship team here in Philly. This game, this upcoming weekend against the Niners, is going to be a huge measuring stick game for both teams. We'll see who comes on top. But, Richard, let's take it to the AFC South. I never thought we would see this, coming into the year, but holy cow, the AFC South is wildly entertaining, and that's led by CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence comes out on top here. Richard, who do you like more? If you had to form a franchise, would you take Trevor Lawrence right now, or would you take CJ Stroud?
Well, you got to say CJ Stroud. We can just talk about the accolades and everything that he's done, but he has the most passing yards through 11 starts in NFL history, passing Justin Herbert for that record. First rookie in the history of the game to have 4 300-yard games in a row. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? He keeps leading his team down the field. Obviously, this time their backup kicker, Amendola, wasn't able to get the ball over the uprights, but he missed 2 kicks for the game and they lose by 3. So it's not from lack of CJ Stroud putting him in a position to win these games. I think he's going to be the better quarterback going forward. Obviously, the first couple of years that Trevor Lawrence played, I mean, he played under Urban Meyer and everybody saw that disaster. And now he's playing under Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is a heck of a coach and is doing a great job with him, putting him in positions to be successful. But I just see more effectiveness from CJ Stroud, especially this early in his career.
I'm with you. I mean, Trevor Lawrence had a great game, 364. And I mean, he certainly carried the load for them in a huge road game. But this Texans team, they're hard not to root for. CJ Stroud, like you said, had this innate ability to turn, I don't want to say average wide receivers, but the likes of Nico Collins and the rookie Tank Dell into relative household names, at least in the fantasy football ranks. And we'll see what happens here down the stretch because Houston has got a big game against the randomly hot Broncos. And let's take it right there, Rich. The Denver Broncos, they win their 5th game in a row. Russell Wilson continues to make a couple big plays to put his team in position to win. How surprised are you by this rise from the Denver Broncos from, what looked like the depths of the NFL to now being firmly in the mix of the playoffs here?
I mean, it's incredible. It's really incredible. They're running the ball really well. They ran it against a Cleveland team that has been stopping the run and playing like historically good defense. And they found a way to run it down their throats. They ran at him. Russell Wilson was running the ball. Javonte Williams looked like his old self before the injury. They did it with a number of different guys. And again, Russell made the big plays that he needs to win the game. He didn't throw for a ton of yards. He threw the 1 touchdown. Their defense has been playing outstanding, holding the Cleveland Browns to 12 points. I mean, since that loss against the Miami Dolphins, they've been on a tear. And that's got to be recognized that they turned this thing around, and they are a big reason why they're winning these games. They've got 15 takeaways over the last 4 games. I mean, they allowed less points in the whole month of November than they did in one game against the Miami Dolphins. So that's incredible. You got to give them credit. They only had 1 rushing TD in the first 11 games. They got 2 this game. I mean, so you see how their formula for winning is changing. Great defense, great running game. That gets it done. I'm looking forward to this game against Houston. That was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, and to Russell Wilson, I mean, his stat line was relatively mediocre, 134 passing yards and a touchdown, but here he is. He's given his team and his playmakers chances. And this is what we were talking about in the first 5 games where he just wasn't. And now he is. Cortland Sutton is all of a sudden turning the corner and having a relatively big year for him. And Russell made a couple big plays on the ground, especially with that rushing TD. So we'll see. On the other side, the Browns, I mean, facing that injury at quarterback with Deshaun Watson, you hate to see it. Dorian Thompson-Robinson trying his best, but 14 for 29 for 134 is just not going to get it done. We'll see if they make another change at quarterback here because at 7-4, the Cleveland Browns are still firmly in the mix in this AFC.
The best way to get tickets to any of these games this month is on Game Time, the fastest growing ticket app in the U.S. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you peace of mind with your purchase. They let you see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know what to expect when you arrive. Their all-in prices show your total up front, so you always know you're getting a great deal. And it takes no time at all. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code Sherman for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Sherman. That's SHERMAN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Richard, speaking of firmly in the mix, the Baltimore Ravens are now the number 1 seed in the AFC with a pretty commanding win against the Chargers last night. They go on the road. They get a 20-10 win. Is there anything in your mind that says this team is not going to finish the year as the number 1 seed?
Yeah, it does. They're stagnant on offense a lot of times. And this is with Lamar Jackson and all the weapons they have. They go through stretches during games where they're just ineffective and three and out punt. And they find ways to score points. Maybe their defense gives them a turnover. Their defense is playing incredibly right now, putting pressure on the quarterback. Kyle Hamilton is having a Pro Bowl season in every role that they're putting him in. But I just don't see them as a number one seed if they keep playing like this. They're going to run into the San Francisco 49ers and these tough teams down the stretch where they'll probably find losses if they can't get these things corrected offensively, because they looked good early on. We talked about how they looked against the Detroit Lions, how they looked against the Seattle Seahawks in those blowout games. But again, the defense held them in check, took the ball from their opponents, put them in short fields, and allowed them to score a lot of points. But then you look at the games like this, games against the Cleveland Browns, games that they've lost this season, where they just have been stagnant offensively, and it's come to bite them in the butt. So I think it's between them and the Kansas City Chiefs. But until otherwise, I think it goes through Kansas City.
Well, it's just crazy because you look at this team and you reference it. They blew out the Lions. They blew out the Seattle Seahawks. And then they go and play their AFC foes and the Browns and lose. And even this game, it wasn't, wildly impressive. The score looks a little bit bigger than it was with the late touchdown score by Baltimore. But to your point, Rich, they got to find an ability to beat the top tier teams in this league, and that is the Chiefs, and that is the 49ers. We'll see what they do. They go into bye. This is a huge opportunity for them. In terms of the Chargers, it looks like their season is well passed over. I don't know how they come back with Brandon Staley at coach here the rest of the way, but I guess ownership has some decisions to make. Fortunately for the Baltimore Ravens, they are this week's almost perfect defense, brought to you by Uber Eats, where we highlight the NFL defense that put on the week's most dominating performance. We're going to give it to the Baltimore Ravens this week.
Got to.
Yeah, had 3 sacks and interception, also forced 3 fumbles to help hold the Chargers to a season low 10 points. I mean, that is pretty darn impressive. So shout out to the Baltimore Ravens, this week's almost perfect defense of the week. And remember, you can order almost anything with Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Go ahead and order now. Richard
Mitchell.
Go ahead.
Mitchell. I keep looking at Baltimore, and their record is great, but it just doesn't feel like a 9-3 team. It doesn't feel like a number one seed. Kansas City at times did not feel like a number one seed either, but they got Patrick Mahomes. They find a way to keep winning these division games. They beat the Las Vegas Raiders, who have been playing really good since Antonio Pierce has taken over as head coach. Obviously, there's concerns that Max Crosby is injured, and that's a big deal. But Josh Jacobs looks like his old self. Aiden O'Connell has played solid. He's fed Devontae Adams for the most part. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes was too effective, 27 of 34, 298, 2 touchdowns, great passer rating. Isaiah Pacheco, within the 10-yard line when they needed it. They need to push the ball in. They tried Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he's not the same as Pacheco. No. Pacheco is getting the ball across the finish line. Travis Kelce, 6 for 91, getting back on track. George Karlaftis, the teammate of Aiden Hutchinson, had a sack in the game. So, and the Rashee Rice, somebody finally from this receiving corps decided to step up and have a day. He had a touchdown in the game, 8 catches for 107. You got to give him a lot of credit because they've been waiting for somebody to step up and take the reins on that offense, and he's decided to be the guy, at least this week.
No doubt about that. Huge game for him. And like you said, Isaiah Pacheco, that guy looks like he's running mad. I mean, like you said, I know you talked about it last year. He kind of has got that Marshawn Lynch to him a little bit, but that guy looks angry when he's running the football. Give it to him as much as you possibly can because he looks like the real deal. It's crazy to think they got him in the 7th round. But Andy Reid, Rich, I mean, this guy is going to go down as probably a one of one. I know Bill Belichick's got something to say about that, but he's the 125th win as the Kansas City Chiefs head coach. That sets their franchise record. He's the only coach in NFL history to hold win records with 2 franchises, being with the Eagles and Chiefs. So that's an impressive thing to have on your resume, no question about it. In this game right here, it's interesting to see because the Raiders were desperate for a win. They got out early, 14-0, and then we saw the Chiefs do what they do and come from behind and win. I don't know what there is to say about the Raiders. They look like they're playing with a little bit more spark with Antonio Pierce, so that's something good to see. But I don't know, Rich. Is their season over in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. It just depends how it shakes out all at the end. I doubt you're going to have an under 500 team in the playoffs for the AFC with how things are shaking out and teams are making runs, but anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, Richard, that concludes this Week 12 recap. I will let you sign us off.
Well, appreciate you guys joining us. As you can hear, I'm a little under the weather this week, but I appreciate you surviving this with me and thriving. It's that time of the year, so make sure you get your vitamins and your meds in you so you don't end up like me. We'll see you next week with our special guest. Hit the sub button if you're new. Everybody else, see you soon.